Hey all, a short treat for you guys today. So I set up a channel, imagine that, last year, and we did a few mini documentaries at very high production values. So here's one of the ones we did, and it covers manipulation, looking through the last few decades at all the ways you can be manipulated and how to counter it. And a quick heads up that tomorrow, 29th of May, I run another critical thinking masterclass, so a live interactive workshop where we go through all of the key tools in critical thinking. And you can still book today through tomorrow up to the afternoon and jump on board. And I give a bit more detail at the end of this short mini documentary on manipulation.
Today we are going to give you a crash course in not being manipulated. Yep, we're going to inoculate you from ever falling prey to this super common affliction. We'll run through some shocking experiments that reveal just how easily people can be manipulated and controlled. From psychological studies to real-world events, the stories we're about to share will leave you shocked, but illuminated, and of course inoculated. First, the granddaddy of them all, the Mgrim Experiment, which proved that most people will become demons if the experts tell them it's okay. It is 1961 and psychologist Stanley Mgrim is about to change our understanding of mass manipulation forever. In his study, participants were asked to administer electric shocks to another person, actually an actor, under the guise of memory and learning experiments. The actor receiving the shocks remained in earshot, but out of sight behind a large screen. This ensured that the participant in the experiment could clearly hear the apparent pain and suffering that he was inflicting.
75 volts, Jim. Oh.
This all took place under the instruction of the white-coated experiment official, who was pretending to make scientific notes in his clipboard. Very official and following the science. Sound familiar? Despite the actor's audible pain and distress,
Sad face.
Wait a minute. That's all. Get me out of here.
an alarming number of participants continued to administer shocks, turning up the dial inexorably at the prodding of the white-coated expert. Shockingly, the majority of participants continued turning up the dial based on the actor's incorrect answers, up to and including levels marked as dangerous on the control panel. Yep, they put the red flag dangerous on the dial, and the people went there.
The experiment requires you continue, teacher. Please continue.
In fact, almost 2/3 of the participants went there. Imagine that. This highlighted the truly disturbing ease with which individuals follow authority figures, even against their own moral compass, and even when instructed to inflict great suffering on a fellow human being. The experiment results rightly sent shockwaves through the entire academic community. The crucial lesson is what actually made the Mgrim experiment so alarming. It was the power of authority to completely twist people's minds. The presence of an authoritative figure in a lab coat, giving clear instructions, an expert, was enough to totally override the moral compasses of the participants. Mgrim's findings disproved the prevailing belief that only a small percentage of people would commit heinous acts under the influence of authority. It showed that under the right conditions, almost anyone could become an instrument of harm.
330 volts.
So, how to avoid being manipulated by the experts say ruse? Well, it's surprisingly easy to avoid falling for this particular scam. The simple trick is always independently analyze what the experts are telling you to do. By all means, briefly listen to what they're saying, but then immediately apply your own critical thinking brain. Does what they say, or are instructing you to do, truly make sense? Common sense, logical sense? Most importantly, have you sought out the alternative opinions or wisdom on the matter and weighed this against what the experts are telling you? There's always two opinions in any issue, even if the media continuously deluge you with one side only. Dig deep into the alternative viewpoints and use your critical thinking to plot your path, always.
You had no other choice, teacher.
You don't have a choice. I'm not going to go ahead with it.
Now let's quickly jump to 1971 and the Stanford prison experiment. Led by respected psychologist Philip Zimbardo, this simulated prison environment assigned the participants roles as either guards or prisoners. In fact, the basement of Stanford's psychology department was transformed into a realistic prison environment, complete with cells and guards. Initially intended to run for 2 weeks, the experiment took a very dark but revealing turn within days. The guards began displaying abusive and authoritarian behaviour towards the prisoners, who in turn showed signs of extreme stress and emotional distress. The line between reality and the simulation rapidly blurred. You see, the guards, given a sense of power and backing by authority, started to engage in psychologically and physically abusing the prisoners. The prisoners, stripped of their individuality, experienced emotional breakdowns. While the experiment resulted in a hue and cry later about the ethics of the experiment, this is not the key point. The crucial outcome was what the experiment revealed, that when you give a random or selected group of people power of authority over another group, the result is oppression, alienation, and outright suffering of the non-chosen ones. A form of cancelling or othering evolves, which is a highly destructive trait in human mass psychology. As an exercise for the viewer, how about casting your mind back over the past couple of years? Did you observe any compelling narratives which gripped the population, leading to a massive us and them scenario, where the group not complying was subjected to dreadful ostracization and exclusion, punished by the chosen, even denied access to public buildings, restaurants, etc.? In any case, the Stanford prison experiment beautifully demonstrated how dividing society into artificial good and bad groups, while giving power to the good group, leads to, quite frankly, disgraceful and inhumane outcomes. Worse still, very bad people and organisations can exploit this knowledge to actually create the problem for their own ends, whether financial or political gain. So for this one, how do you avoid being manipulated into being the oppressor or oppressed? The key is to always remain upstanding and decent when a power play develops or is maliciously developed between groups. If finding yourself in the oppressor group, deeply question within yourself, are the ones we oppress really bad? Have I employed critical thinking and stood in their shoes, seeking to understand their perspective? Have I absolutely ensured, by looking at the alternative data and perspectives, that they are, with certainty, fully deserving of their cancellation and alienation for the good of society? Or have I unknowingly fallen into the Stanford experiment bear trap and am unwittingly giving support to a corrupted authority? Now let's look at conformity. We all like to think that we are not conformists and sheep-like followers, right? Not so fast, Batman or woman. May I present to you the Ash Conformity Experiment? Way back in 1951, Solomon Ash delivered his human conformity experiment. In a group setting, participants were asked to judge the length of lines. With a twist, the majority of the group intentionally gave incorrect answers. Astonishingly, many participants conformed to the group's wrong judgment rather than trust their own perception and stand out from the crowd. This highlighted the powerful impact of social pressure and the fear of standing out from the mob. In fact, it has been claimed widely that a human's primary fear, above all other, is existential, our fear of actual death or severe injury. But right behind that is our second most compelling fear, the fear of social exclusion.
1.
1.
1.
This fear is one which we must all learn to overcome and control, or we will be absolute suckers for manipulation. Our advice to avoid self-destructive compliance? Similar to before. Be honest with yourself and put aside emotion in societal situations where you differ in opinion from the crowd. Stand up with confidence and express your perspective in a calm and forthright manner. Don't be afraid of being incorrect. Simply express why you are taking a certain position and make it clear that you have no monopoly on the truth and that you are fully open to a reasoned, data-rich discussion on where you may be wrong. In short, hold the high moral ground and your head high. I'm going to wrap up with one last crucial scam that manipulates people by the millions. This is an absolute classic, and it is the imposition on society of a chilling effect. Exploited by many bad actors and organisations over the course of human history, it is the process of indoctrinating massive groups of people into subjectivity and compliance by making an example of the leaders. Rinse and repeat until everyone knows that you don't do that. My friend Dr. Jay Wertman gave a beautiful historical example involving animals. The native Indians used to target the lead buffalo in a pack. By taking it down, the herd became confused and easy to control. The clever Indians also exploited other herd behaviours. They would drive the herd into a stampede and channel them towards a cliff edge, like lemmings. Do you remember seeing a leader take the herd over the cliff in more recent times? Yeah. And so we will close with the classic mass manipulation fraud of the Iraq War. The imaginary weapons of mass destruction that were used as a clever ploy to hoodwink the Western world into supporting the scam. Well, the chilling effect trick we mentioned was also used beautifully in this tragic debacle. You see, several top journalists like Chris Hedges and Phil Donahue were effectively muzzled and lost their jobs for opposing the pro-war drumbeating of the main media that employed them. The message was loud and clear to all the other journos: stick to the narrative, or you're next. Have we seen similar and worse vilification of journalists and scientists who question certain narratives in recent years? Highly orchestrated attacks on a large number of them? Looks like the people haven't learned the lessons of the experiments we covered. What do you think?
If you want to know more about critical thinking and become a critical thinking master, look no further than my new mini workshops online. So I have 3 at the moment that I'm actively running. Every few weeks I do another session of each, and the first one shown on screen is critical thinking. So would you like to become a much more expert critical thinker, able to defend yourself much more successfully in conversations with friends and family and come across as convincing, data and logic based? Well then, this is the workshop for you. And we also do a full module within it on discussing difficult matters where friends or family may have been propagandized and have fallen for media nonsense, and how you communicate effectively. Many tools of psychology to effectively convert people, if you will, to logical critical thinking and thus improve your relationships and avoid pitfalls. So in any case, that's critical thinking. You get the 2.5 or so hours live with me and worked examples. And as for each workshop, follow up, I send out the full HD recording. You can see my big screen here. and it's HD, perfect sound, and also I send materials, worksheets, templates, and any other auxiliary materials you need. Very quickly, my other workshop is on mental strength and resilience, how to make yourself tough as nails in this challenging world. Again, it's 2.5 hours, worked examples, and 4 primary pillars of psychology. All the tools and templates that you can use to become far more strong with a far more powerful mindset in this world. And again, we'll be covering communication with other people who may have issues of this nature. So, want to get bulletproof mentally? This is the workshop for you.